Give you a thought tonight that I think would be interesting as I've thought through it and studied through it. It's gotten more and more interesting as I've looked at it, and hopefully it'll be a blessing and a help to you tonight. I put it this way: it'll be a help to us if we'll do something with it. It won't do anything for us if it just sits and we don't apply it. So I'm hoping we'll be able to apply this to our hearts tonight. I want to look at the split personality of wisdom. And I even thought about naming it wisdom has bipolar personality disorder, because there's two different ways of how it looks at it. Now, look at Proverbs chapter number 1 and look at verse number 20, and I'll read and I'll show you right at the beginning what I'm talking about, and then we'll go through the actual the message. But in Proverbs chapter 1 and verse 20, it says, wisdom crieth. So wisdom's crying here. But in verse number 26, look at it says, I also will laugh. So wisdom is crying in one place, but wisdom is laughing in another. You say, that person's a little bit crazy. They're crying one minute, laughing the next. They're either bipolar or they got a split personality or something's wrong with them. They're laughing one second, crying the next second. So let's read it and look at what it says. Wisdom crieth without, she uttereth her voice in the street, she crieth in the chief places of concourse, in the openings of the gates, in the city she uttereth her words, saying, how long? Now think about this again. How long, ye simple ones, will you love simplicity? And scorners delight in their scorning, and fools hate knowledge. How long will you simple ones stay the way you are? Will you scorners keep scorning, and you fools just reject the knowledge that's there for you? How long? Verse 23, turn you at my reproof. Behold, I will pour out my spirit unto you. I will make known my words unto you. This is wisdom speaking. Wisdom's one crying. Wisdom's the I here. Wisdom saying, I will do this for you. And then in verse number 24, because I have called and ye refused. I have stretched out my hand and no man regarded. But ye have set at naught all my counsel and would not of my reproof. I also will laugh at your calamity. I will mock when your fear cometh. This is the way wisdom works. And sometimes I don't think we understand that wisdom works this way, but it does. And so I want to, starting here, chapter 1, in my mind, chapter 1 is kind of encompasses all of what wisdom's going to say in the rest of these chapters. It's very interesting because all the things we're going to look at unfold out of chapter 1 in the different places. And so we're going to look just at some highlight points through several little chapters here, and I want you to see something. Number one, I want you to see something that wisdom's doing. Wisdom's crying out, so I want you to look at wisdom's claim. What is it saying? What is wisdom's claim that it can do for somebody if they would just listen? Well, look at chapter number 2. And I want you to see what wisdom's claim is. Again, we're just highlighting some verses. Chapter 2 and verse number 3. Watch what it says. Yea, if. And I want you to circle that if you write in your Bible. If. Well, let's start at verse number 1. My son, if thou wilt receive my words and hide my commandments with thee, so that thou incline thine ear unto wisdom and apply thy heart to understanding. Yea, if thou criest after knowledge, lift up thy voice for understanding. If thou seekest her as silver and searcheth for her as for hid treasure, then, there's if and a then. So if you do this, then shalt thou understand the fear of the Lord and find the knowledge of God. But listen, you cannot have the fear of the Lord and the knowledge of God unless you will first try to get wisdom. And so wisdom's claim is, I've got something for you if you'll just receive it. Look at chapter 3 and look at verse number 2. Chapter 3 and verse number 2. What does wisdom claim that it can do? It's watch what it says. For length of, look at verse number 1. For my son, forget not my law, but let thine heart keep my commandments. For length of days and long life and peace shall they add to thee. So you can have length of days, you can have peace, and it goes on to say, so shalt thou find favor and good understanding in the sight of God and men. Listen, if you would just do what wisdom is trying to tell you to do, it says you can have long life, you can have peace, you can have favor with God and with man. I don't know anybody in the world that doesn't want favor with God and with man, but this is the claim that wisdom makes. If you'll just keep these things, then I will give you these things. And that's what he's saying to them. In chapter 3, in verse number 23, Watch what it says here. I highlighted some things in my Bible. Verse 23, then shalt thou walk in thy way safely. Look, you can have safety. Say, I want to have a safe life. How do I have safety? Wisdom. Safety. And thy foot shall not stumble. He said, I keep falling down. You need wisdom. I'm not talking about physically you keep falling down. You might need better shoes or balance. But I'm saying if you keep stumbling in life, what you need is wisdom. And so it says in verse number 24, when thou liest down, thou shalt not be afraid. Yea, thou shalt lie down, and thy sleep shall be sweet. You say, I want sweet sleep. You need wisdom. I want safety. You need wisdom. I want to be able to go to sleep and not be a fear. Now, think about this for a minute. There are people that go to sleep and they're fearful of what tomorrow's going to bring because they've been sowing so much mischief in their life. They're fearful of when it's going to catch up with them. And they can't sleep. Verse 25, be not afraid of sudden fear, neither of desolation of the wicked when it cometh, for the Lord shall be thy confidence and shall keep thy foot from being taken. You say, I want to be safe. I want to not stumble. I want to be able to have sweet sleep because I've got peace with God and with man, and I want to have confidence. Well, then you need wisdom, and that's the claim that wisdom brings. In chapter 4, look at chapter 4, looking at the claim of wisdom in verse number 6, chapter 4, verse number 6, forsake her not, and she shall, talking about wisdom now, calls her she shall preserve thee. Love her, and she will keep thee. Wisdom is a principal thing. Therefore get wisdom with all thy getting, get understanding. Exalt her, and she shall promote thee. Say, I want a promotion. Well, start walking in wisdom. She'll promote thee. She will bring thee to honor when thou dost embrace her. She shall give to thine head an ornament of grace, and a crown of glory shall she deliver to thee. You say, I want all these things. Those are the things that wisdom says it will give you if you will just desire and search and dig and spend time around wisdom. These are the things you can have. This is the claim that you can have this. In chapter 4 and verse number 20, watch what it says there. This one's a very important one. My son, again, my son, attend to my words, incline thine ear to my saying. Let them not depart from thine eyes. Keep them in the midst of thine where? Heart. For they are life unto those that find them, and health to all their flesh. I want life and I want health. Walk in wisdom. You know, there's wise things within this Bible that will actually make you healthier in life, reduce stress in your life, help you to be healthier in your mind, body, and spirit in your life. There are truths in this Bible that can help you with that. But then in verse number 23, watch what it says. Keep thy heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. You say, well, I want to have a productive life that's good. I want the issues that come out of my life to be good issues. The claim that the Bible makes is, if you'll stay close to the Bible, close to the wisdom, the issues that come out of your life will be good issues. That you can work through things. That's the claim that the Bible makes. So I want you to see first the wisdom's claim, what it says it can do. Now, I'm only going in this study is all the way up to chapter 9 is all I'm going. Now, all of chapter 8, I'm not going to go there because it'd take too long. All of chapter 8 is a claim. Every bit of chapter 8. All of chapter 8 is really nothing bad in it. It's all about strength and reigning and ruling and riches and revenue and righteousness and rewards and wisdom and all these things that can happen. All of 8 is a claim that wisdom will do. And it would take me an entire sermon just to go through chapter 8, so I'm not going to do it. But all I'm trying to show you is all the way through here, there are claims that wisdom makes throughout the Bible. Now, the second thing I want you to get is not only wisdom's claim, I want you to look at wisdom's cry. Now, this is what had my attention all along, because all the way back in chapter 1, I want you to see, he starts off in verse number 7, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. My son, hear the instruction of thy father, and forsake not the law of thy mother. Now, I really wanted the teens to kind of be in here tonight, but they had already made plans for something we're doing over there. So I would encourage you, I only have 1 page of notes, and if you want these notes, I'll give you these notes after we're over for you to look at them. This would be a great lesson to go over for a study with any young person in your home. It's a great study for any adult, but it's a great study for any young person. What is wisdom crying? Well, it says this. What's interesting, it starts off with my son. In verse 8, it's my son. In verse number 10, it's my son. In verse number 15, it's my son. In chapter 2, it starts off with my son. In chapter 3, it starts off with my son. In 3:11, it says my son. In 3:21, it says my son. In 4, it says, hear, O ye children. In chapter 5, it says my son. In chapter 6, it says my son. In chapter 7, it says my son. In fact, when wisdom is crying out like a father to a son, so to speak, and this is what I want you to get, it either says my son or oh my children 18 times in 7 chapters. Don't you think that maybe wisdom is crying out to get you to listen like a father to a child wants them to listen? That's what he's doing. Wisdom wants you to listen. Now, what is wisdom telling you? I'm going to go through several things all the way through here, but I'm just going to give you an overview of what it's telling you to do. Wisdom is trying to cry out to us to tell us some things, and here's what it's wanting us to do. It's wanting us to watch out for some things in our life. To look out for them. Watch out. Don't walk into things blindly to have the knowledge in order to avoid some pitfalls of life. It tells you that, what to watch out for. It tells you who to never pattern your life after. I'm going to go through these in a minute, so don't worry about it if you're not trying to write all this down. I'll give you the notes. Who to never pattern your life after. Let me tell you, young people, there's not a lot of them in here, but I'm going to tell you, there are some things you can plainly see in the Bible that the Bible tells you, don't be like this person. Young ladies, don't be like this lady. Young men, don't be like this man. Young men, young ladies, don't look for this type of man in life, and young men, stay away from this type of woman in life. It tells you that. In fact, from chapter 1 of Proverbs all the way to chapter 6 of Proverbs, 4 times it talks about a strange woman. Chapter 2, chapter 5, chapter 6, chapter 7. In there, it mentions it 4 times now. 4 times a strange woman. Not all of them refer to like a man being attracted to this woman. Some places it talks about this woman is strange in the sense of, listen, young girls, don't try to be like this woman. So it's telling us what to watch out for, who to never pattern our lives after, and then it also tells us what types of spirit and behavior to avoid and never to be influenced by. It tells us how to keep from stumbling and falling. It tells us how to keep our homes intact and how to keep from being seduced by looks and by flattery. All of that in just 6 or 7 or 8 chapters. It's telling us. Let's look at some of that tonight. Look at Proverbs chapter number 1, and let's see. Remember, Proverbs is crying out to tell you this. Here's the problem. If you won't listen to it, at the end of your journey, when you're going, man, I sure wish I had wisdom about the situation I'm in right now. And when you say, wisdom, where are you at? Wisdom begins to say, you ever heard this phrase? I told you so. Boy, you're in a mess now. I told you so. That's exactly what wisdom will say at the end of your journey. What wisdom will say when you say, man, I'm sure in a mess, wisdom goes, I told you not to do that. You did it anyway. Man, what a fool. What it says is it'll mock at the end. It'll say, what a fool you were to not listen. Wisdom's cry. In chapter 1, in verse number 10, watch what it says. It says, my son, if sinners entice thee, consent thou not. Listen, if people that you know are involved in sinful practices, and they say, we sure would like for you to come with us, what does wisdom say to do? Stay away. No. The old ad that used to come on all the time, just say what? No. Now you say, well, I don't think that really, I don't really think that I really need to do that. I think I need to go out and do something. And you go out and you do it, and you end up somewhere you know you shouldn't be, in a complete mess, and you go, man, I wish I was just wise. Wisdom says, told you so. This is where it ends for people like that. I worked a case in CID. I wasn't going to give many illustrations because I really just wanted the Bible to speak to you tonight, but I'll give you at least a couple. And I worked a case one time in CID. It was a young man. And there was a group of Hispanic guys and a group of black guys. And they got mad at each other during the day. And two of them started arguing during the day. They went to their barracks that night and they got some friends that came together. The young black man was in his room and he went to sleep. And the young Hispanic guy with a bunch of Hispanic friends went over there. And this young guy, they told him, they said, we don't want you to do anything tonight, but just stand outside and holler if anybody comes. We're going to go in and beat him up. So they all went in and beat him up. Unfortunately, while he was standing lookout, they went and beat him up enough that he died. Now, he got charged with murder just like they got charged with murder because it was a conspiracy. Now, so this is what I want you to get. Say this young man was raised in church. I interviewed a lot of people in CID that when I'd get to the end of interviewing them, I would give them the gospel. And a lot of them would crying. I'm telling you, this is exactly the truth. Crying and weeping, bowing down and holding their face in their knees and say, I was raised in church. I knew that this was the wrong path. And now I could do nothing about it but just go to jail and spend my time in prison. Oh God, please help me. If sinners entice thee, you need to say no. Verse number 15, my son, walk not thou in the way with them. Refrain thy foot from their path. For their feet run to evil and make haste to shed blood. Surely in vain the net is spread in the sight of any bird, and they lie in wait for their own blood. It's going to come back to them. They lurk privily for their own lives. It's going to take their own lives at the end of it. So are the ways of everyone that is greedy of gain, which taketh away the life of the owners thereof. Here's some people that they're telling you, why don't you come with us? We're going to get gain. We're going to have great things. At the end of it is nothing but destruction and death. If sinners entice thee, just say no. That's what that's what wisdom is crying out to you. Wisdom is begging you, please listen to what I have to say. What else does it say? Chapter 2. Chapter 2 and verse 10. Chapter 2 and verse 10, look at it. When wisdom entereth into thine heart, knowledge is pleasant in thy soul, discretion shall preserve thee, understanding shall keep thee, to deliver thee from the way of the evil man. There are evil men in this world, and wisdom will give you enough discretion to preserve you and help you to understand things so you will stay away from the evil man, from the man that, watch, he speaketh forward, which means perverse things. Watch this now. I saw this today, circled it. This is a very interesting point. It says, here's the evil man. Now, you're going to be able to spot him and have discretion to spot him if you stick with wisdom. But let me give you a characteristic of the evil man. He says, who leave the paths of uprightness to walk in the ways of darkness. Do you understand what leaving the path means? That evil man used to be on the path. He leaves the paths of uprightness to walk in the ways of darkness, who rejoice to do evil and delight in the frowardness of the wicked, whose ways are crooked, and they forward in their paths to deliver thee from the strange woman. I'm going to tell you about the strange woman. To deliver thee from the strange woman, even from the stranger which flattereth with her words. Watch this now, which forsaketh the guide of her youth and forgetteth the covenant of her God. Do you understand that the wicked, evil man and the flattering woman used to be, or the strange woman used to be on the right path? They left the right path. And watch this now. I want you to get this. All young people, if you're listening or if you're at home with your youth, you need to nudge them and get them to understand this. They left the right path a long time ago, and now they cannot be content unless they get you off the right path. They want you off as well. So to deliver you from the evil man and from the strange woman. She forsaketh the guide of her youth and forgetteth the covenant of her God. Now watch verse number 18 all the way down through here. For her house inclineth unto death, and her paths unto the dead. None that go unto her return again, neither take they hold of the paths of life, that thou mayest walk in the ways of good men, and keep the paths of righteousness. For the upright shall dwell in the land, and the perfect shall remain in it. But the wicked shall be cut off from the earth, and the transgressors shall be rooted out of it. Listen, what he's saying is, if you would just follow the right people, you'll have the right things. But if you follow those people, listen, that used to know what's right, that used to do what's right, and now they've gotten off the path, and they're doing what's absolutely wrong, don't go their way. They're going the wrong direction now, and you are yoking yourself up with them. Don't do it. Don't do it. Wisdom is crying. Wisdom is saying, please don't do it. In chapter number 3, look at chapter 3. Same things. Chapter 3 and verse number 5. Because someone's going to say, well, I think I can make my own decisions here. This is what wisdom's going to cry to you to help you to do. Watch what it does. Wisdom, in chapter 3, in verse number 5, watch what it says. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart. Lean not on thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths. Wisdom will give you direction for your paths, for your future. In verse number 7, it says, be not wise in thine own eyes. Fear the Lord and depart from evil. Listen, wisdom will help you depart from evil, and wisdom will give you direction for your life. Will help you find the right direction for your life. Now, there's somebody that's going to be listening. They'll be saying, I hear what you're saying. Now, watch now. I hear what you're saying, but I'm going to do it my way. I'm going to do it my way. And they go their way. And they reject what the Bible says. They want to do it their way. And they say, I'll do it my way. I hear what you're saying, preacher. I hear what the Bible's saying. I don't like it. I'm going to do it my way. And if they get to the end of their way, there is a way that seemeth right unto the man. The end thereof are the ways of what? They get there, and when they get there, they're looking back and saying, I wish I would have went the right way. I wish I could go back 20 years and get on the right track and stay on the right track. And wisdom is saying, I told you so. I told you so. I was begging you 20 years ago to do it the right way, and you just said, no, I'm going to do it my way. I'm going to do it my understanding. I don't want God's way, I want my way. And what breaks my heart, and I think it breaks wisdom's heart, is that people do this all the time. And so in verse number 11, he says, my son, despise not the chastening of the Lord, neither be weary of his correction. For whom the Lord loveth, he correcteth, even as a father the son, whom he delighteth. Because somebody's saying right now, I don't like being told what to do. I don't like being corrected. I don't like that the preacher is telling me that I'm on the wrong track and I need to fix my life. I don't like being corrected. So he put right here in this spot, right after telling you, don't try to do it your own way, do it God's way. And somebody says, well, I want to do it my way. And he says, don't get upset at the correction you're about to get. Because God loves you enough to correct you. What is wisdom crying out to say? Look at chapter 4. Look at chapter 4 in verse number 14. Chapter 4 and verse 14. Chapter 4 and verse 14. Enter not into the paths of the wicked, and go not in the way of the evil men. Avoid it. Stay away from the whole path. Avoid it. Pass not by it. Turn from it and pass away. I mean, how many different ways can he say it? Enter not, go not, avoid it, pass not by it, turn away from it, pass away. He cannot say it in any way. He's crying out, please listen. Verse 16, so he tells you kind of what's going on with them. For they sleep not, except that they have done mischief. And their sleep is taken away unless they cause some to fall. And I want you to think about and analyze that for a second. They can't even sleep at night unless they've spent some time doing something mischievous. I don't even feel like going to bed tonight. Why? Let's go out and do something. Let's go out and get some things done and do something. I can't even go to sleep tonight until I go out and do something. I got to be mischievous before I can even go to bed at night. I've got to get something done. And I can't even be happy and restful unless I see somebody fall. I'm telling you, there are people like that. There are people that profess to be Christians that are just like this. Can't go to bed until I go out for a little while and party at night. I can't go out. I can't go to bed unless I contribute to somebody else's issues in life. For they eat the bread of wickedness and drink the wine of violence. But the path of the just is as a shining light that shineth more and more into the perfect day. The way of the wicked is as darkness. They know not at what they stumble. You know what? Why are you following the path of people that are constantly stumbling and falling in their life? They're walking in darkness with no light, and they stumble and fall. And let me tell you what happens to you. You stumble and fall in darkness. Chapter 5, look what it says. What is wisdom crying out for you to get? Chapter 5 and verse number 3. Watch what it says. Well, just go back up to verse 1 because just pick up the context. My son, attend unto my wisdom and bow thine ear unto my understanding, that thou mayest regard discretion. Here it is about discretion again. And that thy lips may keep knowledge. For the lips of a strange woman. Here's the strange woman issue again. Chapter 2, chapter 5, chapter 6, chapter 7. For the lips of a strange woman drop as a honeycomb, and her mouth is smoother than oil. Drop as a honeycomb. So remember, a honeycomb is sweet to the taste. And it's smooth. I wrote in my Bible here, it's smooth and sweet. Now, watch number 4. But her end is bitter as wormwood and sharp as a two-edged sword. The words that she's speaking to you, listen, I don't care if you're a young lady that's being entertained towards, I want to be like that lady when I grow up. I want to be like my friend over there. Boy, the things that she says, they just seem sweet and smooth. I like it. Smooth talking, sweet. Oh, it may start off sweet and smooth, but it ends bitter and sharp. Sharper than a two-edged sword. Her feet go down to death. Her steps take hold on hell. Lest thou should ponder the path of life, her ways are movable. You can't ever figure it out. And thou canst not know them. Hear me now, therefore, O ye children. He's crying out again. And depart not from the words of my mouth. Remove thy way far from her, and come not nigh the door of her house, lest thou give thine honor unto others, and thy years unto the cruel, lest strangers be filled with thy wealth, and thy labors be in the house of a stranger, and thou mourn at the last when thy flesh and thy body are consumed. Now I want you to see this now. Wisdom is mocking and laughing, and you say this, and say, how have I hated instruction, and my heart despised reproof, and have not obeyed the voice of my teachers, nor inclined mine ear to them that instructed me. At the end you say, God, I wish I would have listened to mom, to dad, to the teacher, to the preacher. I just wished I would have listened. But you cannot, listen, here's a truth I'm going to give you. It's a great truth bomb. You cannot go back in time. There's a reaping for sowing. You can get forgiveness with God, but there's still a reaping for sowing. I've got written in some of my old Bibles, was a man that was a Bible teacher in our Bible Institute when I was in Happy Valley a while back. And big man. He was probably 6'7", and probably weighed every bit of like 350. Big man. He was serving 3 consecutive 66-year terms for, I think it was attempted murder. It was all kinds of stuff he did. He was in prison, and he hated everybody. He was just a rough guy. He's covered in tattoos. And they would come to him with the gospel. He'd spit on them. He was just rough. Finally, somebody got through to him. He got saved. And eventually, something happened. I don't know what took place. He got released. I believe he started Bible college in there, finished it when he got out. But here he is at our church teaching us the Bible in a Bible college now. And that was his old life. But let me tell you what happened to him, though. He's right. He's clean in the presence of God in that sense, serving God and doing great things. But you know what happened to him? His liver failed. You know why his liver failed? All the drugs and all the stuff he'd been putting into his body for so many years. You can get instant forgiveness with God, but your body is still going to pay the price for all the sowing you've put into it. Watch this now. You can live for me. I'm going to do it my way. I'm not doing it God's way. And at the end of this journey, look back and say, now, take this for what it's worth. Look back and say, and I wish I would have done what God said to do. It showed up in my children. I did it my way. I went with the sinners. And I'm so glad at the end of this I got right, but my children paid the price for my wickedness because I wouldn't listen. Chapter 6. Chapter 6. Chapter 6 and verse number 24. Hearken unto me now, therefore, O ye children. I'm sorry, that's 7. Chapter 6, verse 24. To take thee from the evil woman, from the flattering of the tongue of the strange woman, lust not after her beauty. I wrote this down at the bottom of my Bible. What a shame to have a beautiful face, but a naughty and corrupt spirit. It says, lust not after her beauty in thine heart, neither let her take thee with her eyelids. For by means of a whorish woman a man is brought to the piece of bread, and the adulteress will hunt for the precious life. Now, what it goes on to talk about, and just for sake of time, you can read this and look, but there's a couple of things I want to give you, and it's at the very end of this, so I'm trying to spare a little bit for time's sake. But here's this. Look, in verse 24 down to 27, here is what the Bible says is a whorish woman that flatters, uses her beauty, and pulls you towards adultery. What I have written in my Bible is, she reduces a man as she seduces that man. And so she's bringing him down. That's what it says. And now what you have is you have an adulterous situation from verse 27 down to verse 35. I'll explain it to you very quickly so you'll know. It's telling you that here's a man that has an adulterous affair with another man's wife, and it says this other man will never forgive that. Now, I want you to think about it for a minute. Wisdom will help that woman not be like that. Wisdom will help that man not be seduced by her and reduced. Wisdom will help that home not be broken up. Chapter 7. Chapter 7 and verse number 5 all the way to verse number 23. And again, this one is a young man that's pulled by a strange woman. And I just want you to see very quickly, look at some of the issues that she has in verse number 11. She's loud and stubborn as opposed to meek and quiet. Her feet abide not at her house. Now she is without in the streets, lieth way to the corner. She caught him and kissed him with an impudent face, which means immoral face. She said unto him, I have peace offerings. Think about that for a minute. I have peace offerings with me. This day have I paid my vows. You know what she is? She's religious. Therefore came I forth to meet thee, diligently to seek thy face, and I have found thee. I have decked my bed with coverings of tapestry, with carved works, and fine linen of Egypt. I have perfumed my bed with myrrh, aloes, and cinnamon. Come, let us take our fill of love until the morning. Let us solace ourselves with loves, for the good man is not at home, her husband's away. He's gone on a long journey. Verse 21, with her fair speech she caused him to yield, and with flattering of her lips she forced him. He goeth after her straightway as an ox goeth to the slaughter, as a fool to the correction of the stocks, till a dart strike through his liver. That's what I have written, that man's name next to that phrase. Strikes through his liver, as a bird hasteneth to the snare, and knoweth not that it is for his life. I just thought I was having a little bit of fun with somebody for a little while. At the end of this is death and destruction. Now you could avoid it. Listen, young ladies, I read that because I want you to see something. Young ladies, older ladies, I don't care what lady. You don't want to be like this woman. Wisdom is saying, don't be like this woman. This is what a lot of the entertainment world is. And what people are doing is, I want to be just like whatever name you put in that blank. You don't want to be like this woman. And young men, you don't want to chase after this woman. Wisdom is begging you to get that. Now, the end of chapter 8 just says something about life and death, and the last two verses. We give you the last little thing here and we're done, is this. Wisdom's counterfeit. In chapter 9, I want you to see something. This is so good. I wish they had another hour just to give you this chapter 9. Look at chapter 9, just watch what this says. Wisdom hath builded her house. She hath hewn out her 7 pillars. She hath killed her beasts. She hath mingled her wine she hath also furnished her tables. She has sent forth. And I want you to get this next little part. It's going to parallel with verse 13 through 18. So if you want to kind of look back and forth, you certainly can. I'm going to show it to you. From verse 3 to verse 6 is a parallel with 13 and 18 of the same chapter. 3 through 6 is talking about what wisdom looks like. What's interesting about 13 through 18 is it's the exact same thing in 13 through 18. But in the first half of that chapter, it's what wisdom does. In the second half, it's what foolishness does. I'm going to read it to you. Watch what it says in verse 3. She has sent forth her maidens. She crieth upon the highest places of the city. Look over at verse number 13 and 14. A foolish woman is clamorous, she is simple, and knoweth nothing. For she sitteth at the door of her house on a seat in the high places of the city to call passengers who go right on their way. Watch. Whoso is simple, let him come in hither. And as for him that wanteth understanding, she saith unto him, stolen waters are sweet, and bread eaten in secret is pleasant. Watch the beginning of this chapter. Look at verse 4. What is wisdom is standing in the high places crying as well. Watch what it says. Whoso is simple, let him turn in hither. As for him that wanteth understanding, saith unto him, come, eat of my bread and drink of the wine which I have mingled. Forsake the foolish and live and go in the way of understanding. She has a table prepared at her house as well. She's crying for the simple and those that lack understanding. Please come in. I am giving you nourishment. What's interesting about the fool, same people it's trying to cry out to in a high place, pulling them in as well. But this is what it says in verse 17. Instead of the nourishment it gives, watch what it says. Stolen waters are sweet, and bread eaten in secret is pleasant. The first half said, forsake the foolish and live. This one says, but he knoweth not that the dead are there, and that her guests are in the depths of hell. Let me just make this little statement. Wisdom has a claim that it makes that it can give you some things. Wisdom is crying out and begging you to please listen. Wisdom has a counterfeit. And so here you are. I want you to get this. It's so important to get it. Here you are in church, some of you are watching. You're in church, and wisdom is begging you. I want to promise you something. I want you all to hear this. There will be a crowd out there that will beg you to listen to them as well. And they will say, come in here. We have some great things over here too. We have some things that are sweet. They're stolen. I mean, you really can't have anything unless you have some fun with it. It's stolen. And let me say this to you. Anything that you have to do in secret, there's a problem with it. So, look, we got a group over here. I know over there at that church, they're all talking about, wisdom and the Bible, but we're having fun over here. I'm not just talking to youth. I'm talking to adults too. We're having fun over here. We've got a group over here, and we're doing great things over here too. Come over here. We got the same things they got over there. We got a form of wisdom. We've got some camaraderie. They've got unity. We've got unity. They've got some knowledge. We've got some knowledge. Come over here. Avoid that. Come over here. And what you're supposed to do, look, when sinners entice thee, what are you supposed to say? No. The end, look, inside there, you can't see it, but when you get inside there, it's nothing but death and destruction. And at the end of that journey, look, at the end of this journey is life. At the end of this journey is peace. At the end of this journey, you can sleep good at night. At the end of this journey, you're going to have some things in your life. At the end of that journey, you lose some things in your life. At the end of that journey, you don't have peaceful sleep. At the end of that journey is death and destruction. At the end of that journey is a broken home. At the end of that journey, the last point is this, wisdom's caution. At the end of that point, you're saying, I wish I would have listened to wisdom. At the end of this journey, you find yourself on your knees next to your bed, broken down the road going, I messed it all up. At the end of this journey, for a young man, you find yourself in handcuffs sitting in a police officer's office with your hand in your lap, crying, saying, I wish I would have listened to Grandma. That's what that man said to me. I wish I'd have listened to my grandma. She took me to church every week. I wish I'd have listened to Grandma. I can't remember if it was him or a different guy. He pulled up his sleeve and had a big cross on it. It said something like about Jesus on it. He said, I just wished I would have listened. And when you stand over here and you say, wisdom, where you at? Wisdom says, just like I said the other day with the man driving the car, wisdom says, I've been right here all along. And I was begging you and begging you and begging you to listen. And you said, do it my way. And now this is where you're at. And so we end back with chapter 1 and what he says. Watch what it says. I'm going to read the rest of that chapter, and this was just, I'm just going to read it. Wisdom was crying for you when you were learning, but it's laughing at you when you get to the end of the thing of rejecting. And watch what it says. I also will laugh at your calamity. Well, verse number 24, because I have cried and you refused. I have stretched out my hand and no man regarded. But ye have set it not on my counsel and have none of my reproof. I also will laugh at your calamity. I will mock when your fear, think about this, when your fear cometh. Wisdom, I'm saying God, I'm saying wisdom says, I told you so. Verse 27, when your fear cometh as desolation, underline these words. When your fear cometh as desolation, and your destruction cometh as a whirlwind, when distress and anguish cometh upon you, then shall they call upon me. Remember, he was calling to you the whole time. You were too busy living it up to listen to it then. Then shall they call on me, but I will not answer. I would hate to be in that spot. Then shall they seek me early, but they shall not find me. For that they hated knowledge, and watch this now, and did not choose the fear of the Lord. Folks, this evening, the choice is yours. And when you get to the end of this thing and you say, man, I just wish something could get me out of this list, he says, listen, the choice was yours. Verse 30, they would none of my counsel. Don't want any of your counsel. They despised all my reproof. Don't despise the chastening of the Lord. It's good. Now, so that's what he told them. Here it says, they despised all my reproof. Therefore, now watch what it says. I want you to get this verse, memorize this verse. Therefore shall they eat of the fruit of their own way. I want to do it my way. I don't care what the Bible says. Listen, but the Bible's full of wisdom and peace and life. You know, a happy home and a happy heart and a happy, future. I don't care. I want to do it my way. Therefore shall they eat of the fruit of their own way and be filled with their own devices. For the turning away of the simple shall slay them, and the prosperity of fools shall destroy them. Watch, here's the last little part. But whosoever hearkeneth to me shall dwell safely and shall be quiet from fear of evil. Wisdom is crying for you to please get this. At the end of this journey, when you say, I don't want anything you got to say, I do it my way, at the end, wisdom is laughing. That's what made me think wisdom's bipolar. Wisdom's crying at one point, laughing at the next. And I would say to you, my heart's desire, as I read through this and study through this, my heart's desire is that all of us would listen to this. We would get it. Let me tell you the truth, I don't laugh at your calamity. What it's saying is, wisdom is saying, wisdom doesn't really have an emotion to it. Wisdom is either black or white. Wisdom's saying, do this and you have this. If you don't do it, you don't have it. So whenever you're crying for it, you say, I wish I had it. You didn't invest in it, you can't have it. That isn't the way my heart is. My heart is, I weep over the fact, and I know God weeps over the fact that you are destroying your life. That this world is way more important than God is. That your fun for a season, your pleasure in sin for a season, is way more important than just suffering the reproaches of Christ and living for the Lord. And there is a reaping that comes from all of that sowing. I'm just begging you. I know there's not a lot of people listening tonight because it's a Wednesday night, but I'm begging you, please hear the cry of wisdom so that you do not have to listen to the laugh of wisdom. Let's stand. Well, Lord God, Father, we just thank you for your word and ask you to please bless tonight. Please help us. Lord, I try to just give what your word says. It's all right there for the listening ear. Lord, I pray you'd help us tonight. I pray you'd help us to heed the warning, put it to practice in our life, to start sowing the right things so we can reap the right things. Help us, Lord. Help those that are watching tonight. Help those that will listen in the future. Bless and help them now. We love you and thank you in Jesus' name. Amen. She's going to play and give you just a couple of minutes to pray.